Okay. Hey everybody, Lynn and Otter back here for another installment of One Last Night. Things got a little crazy last time, so let's see how this goes. Some kind of creepy monster. Oh, and it looks like I'm some kind of human. I didn't mention this last time, so I don't know. This is very interesting, and also I think I probably will actually change my mind on doing my voice for this character, since technically it is Dorian, not Lynn and Otter. So I'm gonna adjust my voice just a little bit. Of course, it had to be this. I should have expected no less from this. Oh, I thought I said Shadow World. I should have expected no less from this. Well, Shadow World works anyway. The third option was our winner after all. Oh, man. A faded. With the element of surprise no longer on its side and some distance between us, I readied myself into a proper fighting position. The faded slinked into the clearing, eyeing me with caution as we begin to circle each other. So this is an apocalypse, and not just normal, like, nuclear, supernatural related apocalypse. Great. Fights like these could end in an instant, often with whoever made the first move. It lunged first, but I was ready. With near blinding speed, it bounded towards me and brought its claws down towards the earth. I used the opportunity to slide beneath its belly. Slicing the spear across it before standing up behind it. Nice. Ugh! The creature let out a yowl of pain and turned to face me, teeth bared more than I thought possible. Blackened blood started to pool beneath. Though the wound wasn't deep, it had done the damage as intended. Infuriated, I was left on the defensive as it came at me with a flurry of blows, barely managing to dodge or deflect them and leaving me no opportunity for a counterattack. It left a trail of blood and dust in its wake, relentless in its pursuit. Its movement speed was slower thanks to my first blow, but it remained determined in trying to kill me. However, I was also tiring. Fighting a creature more than 3 times my size, it's that huge? The fight soon became a battle of stamina, neither of us willing to fall to the other. All I needed was to wait for the right opportunity, the smallest margin of error in its attacks. Trying to set up my alarm. That's always the one thing I seem to forget to do all the time. Then I could claim victory. Exchanging blow after blow, the two of us fought to get the upper hand. As the arm came toward me, the monster faltered slightly, seeming to lose some of its balance. Now! I narrowly avoided the claws, allowing the weight of the spear to carry my momentum forward in one last desperate thrust. But the blow never landed. The faded slip had been intentional and allowed it the opportunity to reach its hand toward me. Caught off guard, I could do nothing as its fingers wrapped around my body, causing me to drop my spear. Oh no. It held me in the air triumphantly, a look mixed with anger and amusement crossing its face. It had won. I struggled as hard as I could, but it had a vice-like grip around me. It squeezed hard, and I felt immense pain throughout my body. I cried out from the agony, unable to contain it in time. A horror dawned on me as its hand moved toward its mouth, realizing that my death was imminent. Its hand moved toward its mouth? I'd spent a year in this hellscape, and this is how I was going to die? I refused to believe it. I still needed to make it through the day. I still needed to find Marshall. I stopped my cries and stared into its eyes, refusing to give it the satisfaction of seeing me as a scared prey. Closing my eyes, I waited for the inevitable and cast out one last wish, asking whatever that messed up deity that might be listening to give me a second chance. The sound of something impaling flesh came from in front of me. Opening my eyes slowly, I peered at the faded. Curiosity peeked at the noise. Between its brows sat an arrow, embedded deep within its forehead. A look of shock was now on its horrifying face, before the eyes rolled back and I felt the grip around me loosen. The creature collapsed and I fell from its now dead hand. More pain shot through my already fragile body as I hit the ground below me. Ow. I did it! I did it! Oh no. I did it? I did it! A voice called out from somewhere nearby, one completely unfamiliar to me. I heard a gasp as my mysterious savior presumably saw my stiff body on the ground. Crap, crap, crap! Footsteps began to rush towards me. Using the last of my strength, I looked up, hoping to get a glimpse of the figure. All I managed to get was a silhouette of someone holding a bow and arrow. And then the world went black. Dear Marshall. I read online somewhere that keeping a journal is a good way to process your emotions. As cheesy as it sounds, like how much I miss you. Amongst other things, of course. Can't just be thinking of you all the time now, can I? Why am I trying to justify myself to a book? Yes, this is mostly to help me get through the time spent without you, when I'm in the apartment alone. I know it's only for a couple of hours, but this place feels a bit empty when you're gone. Your presence is so comforting that when it's not there, I feel like a small piece of myself is missing with it. We've been dating for a little over 1.5 years now, already have an apartment together. For most it would probably seem too fast, but with you, Marshall, it feels just right. I never really knew just how good love could feel until I met you. And yet, it's still surprising in a lot of ways. I've only just started to realize how much I rely on you. Whether it's to be there when I'm hurting, or even just to have someone whose tail wags vigorously when eating my cooking, I've come to rely on that sense of joy that accompanies you. It helps me get through the days, especially the darker ones. At this point, I'm not sure what I'd do without you. I always patiently await your return as well, waiting near the door as the hours come to a close as if I were the dog in this relationship. Yeah, I'm definitely not letting you see this journal. It feels a bit silly to be writing this all down. Keeping a catalog of my daily thoughts and emotions as if they'd be important later. At the same time, though, I can't deny it is oddly comforting to have this to be able to look back at someday. I'm sure it'll provide me with some good laughs as time goes on. Aside from that, though, when you get home tonight, it'll mark the start of the weekend, which means I'll have several days with you to myself. Well, I think that'll do as a first entry for now. See you soon, my wolf. Love, Dorian. Oops, pain. That's the first feeling that overwhelms me as my mind begins to drift back towards consciousness. I can feel the ache spread through my entire body, the soreness most concentrated towards my shoulder. It feels as though I've been run over by a small semi-truck. An involuntary groan escapes my lips as I begin to try and sit up, removing the blanket covering me. I have a bit of trouble trying to move my left arm for whatever reason, so I rely mostly on my right to move me into a seated position. Looking down, the arm is in some kind of makeshift sling strung across my chest. Ah, damn it. What happened? My voice comes out slightly raspy and hurts my throat. I take a moment then to actually look myself over, finding more than just a sling wrapped up. I'm covered in bandages, scattered across my arms, legs, and torso. Most of my clothing has been removed, save for my underwear. For as sore as I am, I can still tell that all this dressing is overkill, and I know for a fact I didn't have this much first aid with me on my last inventory check. Which means somebody must have dressed my wounds, and were definitely overcautious when doing so. But who? There's a flash through my mind at that. Yeah, there's a flash through my mind at that as it races to catch up on my. There's a flash through my mind at that as it races to catch up on my missing memories from earlier in the day. I fought a faded and almost lost to it had I not received help from that figure I saw before I blacked out. Were they the one that helped me? As if on cue, there's a shuffling sound from outside and that familiar silhouette steps through the tense flaps. Ooh. Alright, what voice to give this guy? I kind of gave him one already, but alright, so he's a bat. Deep breaths. Transylvanian accent. Deep breaths. Deep breaths. I'm sure he's just fought. Oh! Staring down at me is a tall, lanky bat frozen in place at the side of my now conscious form. His face almost seems to be wearing a mask, black fur covering it in contrast to the brown fur on the rest of his body. A body I can get a good view of due to his odd-fashioned choices. On his torso, he wears a black crop top, room left at the sides for his wings, but leaving his midriff exposed. Slung across his back is a quiver full of arrows, presumably the same ones that had shot the faded earlier. His legs are covered by a pair of jeans, ripped and fading beyond belief. To accentuate all this, he wears a tattered light pink scarf draped around his shoulders. I don't see a scarf with this thing here. You're awake! Is that alright? Maybe a higher pitch? You're awake. Yeah. Oh, thank God you're awake. I was so worried I'd mess something up. Maybe a little bit deeper. Yeah, deeper. He takes a step towards me. He takes a step towards me, causing me to reach for my spear on instinct. Forgetting the fact my arm is in a sling, I jerk to the side and throw myself off balance, resulting in me falling onto my shoulder. Ow. A startled yelp escapes my lips on the suddenness of the impact. The bat rushes towards me, dropping the bow he was holding and reaching out his hands. I try to wriggle away, but I feel him grab me and bring me into a sitting position once more. Easy there. You're still hurt. He sits across from me once I've stabilized, but I glare at him with a look of distrust. He may have helped me, but I still don't know what his intentions were. I try to ask him where my spear is, but a cough comes out instead, the result of my dry throat. He reaches to his side and removes a canteen, unscrewing the cap and holding it out towards me. My hand begins to move upward, but I hesitate. Even though I want to immediately grab the water, I err to the side of caution. I have no way of knowing whether the liquid is safe to drink or not. Very good point. Seeing this, the stranger brings the canteen to his own lips and takes an audible drink, a bit of water dribbling out the side of his mouth. See? Perfectly safe. I promise I'm friendly. I'll let anybody in the comments also kind of dictate what kind of voice I might try to give this guy. If it should be a little deeper, a little higher, maybe a little raspier, maybe smooth like silk. Holding out the canteen, I hesitate for only a second before grabbing it, hungrily gulping down the water. I gasp in relief as I come up for air, feeling satisfied with the moisture now returned to my mouth. Let me get some water too. A pleased look crosses the face of the bat, one that seems to be genuinely happy that I'm okay. It catches me off guard, seeing that level of purity in his eyes. It's something I haven't seen in so long, likely not since our world began to fracture. I feel the walls I had built up lower a bit at that, a part of me wanting to trust him. Curiosity bubbles up inside me, wanting to know more. Clearing my throat, I find my voice again. I appreciate the help, but I don't believe I caught your name while I was asleep. Well, he blinks a few times, processing that. His cheeks flush in embarrassment as he realizes he hadn't introduced himself yet. Oh, right. I mean, the way he's flustered gives me like a younger vibe, so I'm thinking he's got a higher pitched voice. I'm sorry, I'm probably overthinking this. Of course. How could I forget? My name's Xavier. What's yours? Dorian. His smile widens at that. A pleasure to meet you, Dorian. How are you feeling, by the way? I did my best to patch you up, but I don't really have a lot of experience with first aid. I take the time now to remove my arm from the sling, stretching out a bit to get a feel for whatever damage Xavier had thought I'd taken. And aside from the soreness, it didn't feel all too bad. The pain I'd felt when I woke up earlier nearly non-existent. All things considered, I think I'm fine, though all the bandages seem to be overkill. I gestured to my near-mummified body to accentuate my point. He lets out a small laugh at that and rubs the back of his neck. Yeah, not my finest work. Let me help redo them, but this time you can take the lead. With his help, the two of us get to work unwrapping the dressing, revealing many bruises underneath. While I'd usually never let someone I just met get this close to me, I don't really have much of a choice. For now, I'll have to rely on him a bit, keep him close until I have more information. To our surprise, we found very few cuts on my body. I'd expected at least some reason for his overreaction, but the bruises would be the only reason for that, and even then it's not good enough. Although that doesn't quite explain his surprise, as if he was reading my mind. He starts speaking. I swear, you looked a lot worse when I found you. You were completely covered in scratches, and I could see the bruises starting. Your shoulder had even been dislocated. I put it back in place while you slept. That explained the soreness in that area. I give him a reassuring pat before I started to get dressed, my body no longer heavily wrapped. No need to worry so much about it. Better to overdo it than underdo it when it comes to things like these. I'm sure you were just scared after fighting the Fated. He stares at me with confusion stretched across his features. You mean that big monster thing? I let out a laugh at that. I suppose that's one term for it, yeah. Most just call them the Fated, though. Something that looked like hope sparked behind his eyes. There are others? More survivors like us? Of course there are. He seemed overjoyed at that, as if it were the best news he'd ever received. It had been a year since the start of the apocalypse. There was no way he hadn't encountered anybody else in that time. I knew something was off about Xavier, but I couldn't quite put my finger on what. I looked at him again, thinking over my options. Although I had been somewhat injured from the last fight, from what I could tell, his main weapon was a bow. A long-ranged fighter in close quarters was at an obvious disadvantage. I definitely had more muscle than him. He had some definition in his arms, but I was confident I could beat him in a fight if it came down to it. With that assessment out of the way, I was determined to get my answers. Who are you? I feel like my voice for Dorian is getting progressively deeper as he's... Hold on. Now it was his turn to be caught off guard. I'm Xavier, remember? I knew you said you were fine, but maybe you really did hit your head hard. I brush off his hand as he tries to reach toward me concerned. No, that's not what I meant. I was asking who you are, as in, what's your story? How can you act so upbeat and innocent after all that's happened? How can you not know what a Fated is? Or that there are other survivors after a full year? I'll ask you again, Xavier. Who are you? Xavier shifted at that, seemingly uncomfortable with my questions. Well, His squirming was starting to annoy me, but I kept myself in check, even reining the earlier attitude back a bit, thinking about how the question sounded. The best way to get answers out of someone like him was to be kind but direct. Besides, after seeing his bow skills earlier, he'd likely be better as an ally than an enemy. Take a deep breath, kid. You already have my respect for saving me from that Fated. You don't have to be afraid to tell me what happened to you. Taking a moment, the bat began to compose himself before speaking once more. It's not that I'm afraid to tell you. It's just something I'd rather not relive. I felt a pang of sympathy at that. knowing the sensation all too well. You can keep the details scarce then. Just tell me what you can. It'll help the both of us. He took another deep breath before continuing. Simple. I can do simple. This will sound wild, but hear me out. When whatever happened, I was in a bunker. I blinked a few times, processing his words. A bunker? Yeah. My parents were unique in their beliefs, let's say. We had a bunker, and as if that were we had a bunker, and as if that were a normal thing, bunker cleaning was amongst my chores. Okay, so we're gonna. Okay, I'll call it here. Don't want to make this episode too long. Previous episode was a bit longer because it was like a quote-unquote premiere or whatever. But we'll end this one here. We're gonna get to know Xavier, see what he's all about. Seems to be a decent chap all around so far. But hope you guys enjoyed my narration. I'll try to get more comfortable with the voices again. I'm so used to doing all the characters from Burroughs. New cast of characters. I'm trying to make sure I don't necessarily do the exact same voices, but I mean, I'm no Tara Strong, so anyway. But hope you did enjoy this episode. Hope it was relaxing, enjoyable. Stay tuned for any other episodes in the future. To like if you've enjoyed it. Subscribe if you also would like to be updated. I'll be posting other things soon too. Highlight reels. Again, you can also follow me on Twitch, Twitter, TikTok, and Instagram. But till next time, hope you guys take care. Have a good day and all that. Bye-bye.